Namo Bhagavate Ramakrishnaya. Om. Salutations to Bhagavan Ramakrishna. Welcome to Unpacking Yoga Teachings and Practices. This will be a series of classes. Hopefully, we can take 12 and then I could go in a notch higher and give something a little more sublime. This first class will be just laying the groundwork. It will be an introduction to the grand science of yoga. There are a lot of misconceptions regarding yoga and also conceptions regarding yoga. The word yoga itself has got two meanings. One is ultra concentration. I'll repeat that. It's called concentration. It's technically is spoken about as samadhi. The second meaning of the word yoga comes from the word to join, a union, to yoke. The English word yoke has its origins in this Indo-Aryan word, yoga. It is now you yoke the individual soul with the cosmic soul, or you with the deity. It's called yoga. So these two conceptions have been used interchangeably in almost all the scriptures. The yoga's aphorisms, which are the most authoritative, you can say, scriptures on yoga, they use the word yoga in the first sense. Concentration. Yoga. Samadhi. So this is. Now, how ancient is this science of yoga? For one thing, it has its origins in these old fire sacrifices called the Vedic sacrifices called the yajnas. These are the Vedic yajnas, the fire sacrifices. In those sacrifices, we had two things, two streams. One is the internal and the external, or the subjective and the objective. The pouring of oblations into the fire consisted of the external aspect of these sacrifices. So one poured the oblations along with the appropriate mantras. The complementary part of this external sacrifices was the internal, and this was the old, you can say, meditation. They were called vidyas. In the old Upanishadic text, we have various processes given to us, various structures of how one needs to contemplate. The combination of these two became what is called the proper form of a yajna, or a sacrifice, fire sacrifice. So yoga was distilled, as it were, from these old Vedic sacrifices, so what we have today. But if you ask me, is that the origin of yoga? I will say no. It was refined then. The origins were even earlier. And how earlier? Well, the mantras used in a Vedic sacrifices were the mantras of the Vedas. Now, these Vedas, which means knowledge, they were extensive and they were, as they say, discovered or rediscovered by sages in the depths of their meditations. So the Vedas themselves are ancient. The oldest parts of the Vedas, it's called a Rig Veda. It is as ancient as most civilizations that we know of and we read in history. Somehow these teachings have been coming down to us from prehistoric times. Now these Vedas, it's mean in knowledge. Knowledge what? It's a knowledge of God. And these were intuited or rediscovered in the depths of meditation by the sages. They were called rishis. The males were called rishis and the females were called rishikas. So these men and women, sages, they used to meditate, and after that deep meditation, they used to see these mantras flash in their meditations. Like Swami Vivekananda says, I have seen the mantra in shining gold. These mantras that we utter are actually perceivable in the high state of mind. So, the yoga itself has got extremely ancient origins. Now, what has this got to do with today's world? What is relevance? We are used to discarding clothes and shoes and phones and iPads the moment they become old or a newer version arrives. It's a culture of discarding the old and taking in the new. And these are really ancient practices. Do they have relevance today? Perfect. You can see it in the way the various centers are proliferating all over the world. Cultures that were completely cut off from these teachings are embracing them. For one principal reason, the rise of stress, physical and mental, is tremendous in today's modern world. Unbelievable bodies and minds are fragmenting. It's just that you need some integrative factor to just be sane in this world and to operate at an optimum level. This is one of the reasons why yoga is finding its echoes everywhere. Now, the military uses it, executives use it, sportsmen use it, everybody is using it. It has become a household word. And like I said, one of the meanings of the word is to join, to yoke. So this is some of the reasons, in fact, one of the principal reasons. They are first, the second reason why yoga is getting popular more and more is simple. It is based on the real nature of a human being, on the person's body and the person's mind. As long as a human being is embodied, one has a body and one has a mind, these teachings will be relevant. The second is, it is completely rational. It's a straight royal path. That's why the yoga aphorisms are called the kingly yoga, the royal yoga. It has no esoteric elements in this. People take it and try to make it a kind of an esoteric science. No, if it is going to be beneficial to each and every one, there is no mystery about it. The old word of mysticism is mislabeled for yoga. Yoga is a tremendous science, a psychological science that can lead us to the highest possible experience a human being can have. There is no mystery in yoga. There is no esoteric element in yoga. It's a straight path. Third is, yoga is not a religion in the strictest sense of the term. Like you have religion in the sense of institutionalized or organized religions. Yoga is not. Yet it is the basis of all religions and all spirituality. You can never be spiritual in the truest sense of the term without the elements of yoga. That being said, what it teaches, the truths it presents to us are practical. It is not giving us something that's impractical, impossible. It is meant for each and every one. Anyone with a body and with a mind can practice yoga. Simple as that. There is no kind of special class of people that are eligible for it. No. It's meant for everyone. The claims that it makes are verifiable. Now, if some religion or some spiritual element claims X and XXX, you must be able to verify this X, XXX. Whether there is a God, whether there is a soul, whether life is finite or infinite, what is the nature of this universe, these are verifiable truths presented in the scriptures, in the yoga scriptures. And these truths have, for the last 7,000 or 8,000 years, they have been verified. You see, it's not just, we've been just talking about this, it's in that book. It has been verified by not one or two or three people. There has been a long tradition of sages and saints and yogis who have verified and authenticated these teachings. So in this punishing modern life, that it's punishing and killing us, yoga is the best antidote. Yoga is the medicine that will cure you of everything. What everything? The root of everything is ignorance. Ignorance about existence itself. It's taken care of. Now, so much for the introductory part of this. So, like I said, we'll be taking a series of these classes, each one flowing into the other. And in the process, I could give you some practical hints that you will be kind of practicing a little breathing, a little concentration along with me. So I just want this to be an exercise in practicality, not another talk which you might forget. And you say, "Oh, Swami, you spoke so beautifully." And then we ask, "What did I speak about, sir?" "Well, it wasn't, I don't remember, but it was beautiful." Ah. I hope to put this in a way that it will become meaningful to you, practical to you. So you can incorporate some of these things into your lives. Okay. Now, as I mentioned, yoga is samadhi, concentration. It's not just ordinary concentration, tremendous concentration. Okay. Now we have, all of us, we have the hardware to attain to the states of yoga. The only problem is this hardware has been misused for a very, very long time. It has been used for purposes other than yoga. If we could have employed it in yoga, it would have become wonderful. However, the first aphorisms of the yoga teachings are, "Now therefore begins the teachings on yoga, ata yoganuशासनम." Okay. And the commentator, the ancient sage Vyasa, or called Veda Vyasa, he has given us 5 types of minds. Actually, I will not call it a mind. It is the very material of the mind, the very structure, the hardware of the mind. They are of 5 types. One is the restless. Now we know what restlessness is. Here, we're perfectly natural with it. But that is an abnormal state of mind. It's called the kshipta, the restless. Too much of restlessness gives one diseases in the body and in the mind. Yes, it leads to insanity. I mean, I'm using a very strong word, but it leads us down the path of mental ill health. So too much of restlessness of the mind is one type of a mind. The second type is the stupefied mind, kind of mind that's kind of toxic, or mind that's, you can say, dark. The mind that's always thinking of revenge and hate and aggression and spite and jealousy and all these negative things. These negative traits of the mind darken the mind. It fills the mind with tamas, a kind of darkness. No truths can flash into such a mind. Okay. Like Swami Vivekananda, it serves only to injure. And most of the lower creations is composed of this stupefied mind. The third type of mind is the distracted mind. It's called the vikshipta. So remember, kshipta, mood, vikshipta, that is the restless, the dark mind, and the distracted mind. Now, most of us have this distracted mind. Most spiritual aspirants, and most people rather, have the distracted state of mind. Okay, now this is clear. The fourth type of mind is the one-pointed mind. It's called the ekagra. That is when the energies from the fringes are coalescing or centering itself. That is one-pointedness. Now, there are people with concentration, but in yoga, you must understand that the concentration is internal. The subject meditating on the subject. You meditating on yourself. It's easy to concentrate your mind on a chair, on a table. Well, it's easy. Yeah, because the senses are outgoing. So, this distracted state of mind has now to be cultivated slowly, and then it becomes one-pointed. Or it's called also concentrated. And the fifth one, which is the highest state of a person's mind that a person can ever attain to, is the arrested or the controlled state of mind. It's called the niruddha. This is the highest possible, you can say, state where it leads one to super consciousness. Let me make it very clear. This mind, until and unless it's not controlled, will block us from entering into super consciousness, which is the goal of yoga. Okay. Now that said, I'll enumerate them again. The restless, the stupefied or the dark mind, the distracted, the one-pointed or concentrated, and the controlled or the arrested. This is the highest state of the mind. The commentator on the yoga philosophy is very clear that there is concentration, ordinary concentration, momentary concentration in all the states of the mind. In these, the first three, 1, 2, 3. It's not that the lower mind or these first three aspects are bereft of concentration. No. If a person hates another person, see how concentrated that person is. If the person loves something or somebody, see how concentrated that person can become. So there is momentary concentration, but these moments of concentration are subordinate to the periods of restlessness. That is why it is not, you can say, good enough to have such distractions. Now, when you're talking about distractions, yes, there is a momentary calmness and the momentary restlessness or distraction. You come back and the mind moves. Most of you are aware of things, how they move from restlessness to calmness over and over again. So Swami Vivekananda says that the first three is the quality of the mind of the demons, and the next two, the fourth and the fifth, belong to the gods. Okay. Now don't get frightened about the gods and demons. Okay. It means the mind that is externalized and the mind that's internalized. This is the difference between the first three and the next two. So what does the mind, as it is gathering in Swami Vivekananda uses the word gathering in. As it gathers in towards a center, it's trying to center itself, trying to stay calm and stay calm for a length of time. The first thing that one gets is the revelation of reality. You know what is real and you know what is unreal. In your lives, in the world, in religion, in everything. The sharp distinction has been made. The second, it weakens the pain-bearing obstructions. When you're trying to meditate, the hundreds of things coming out, but they are clashed into 5 painful, you can say, obstructions. These 5 are ignorance, obviously, egotism, attachment, aversion, and the pain and the fear of dying, fear of death. So these teeming thousands and thousands of thoughts which are in you are classed into 5 groups: ignorance, egotism, attachments, aversions, and the fear of death. This yoga will attenuate these impressions. They are called in the Yoga Sutras avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha. Avidya, non-knowledge, ignorance. And then we have egoism, asmita, asmi, I. Raga is attachment, dvesha is revulsion, and the fear of death, the fear of disease, the fear of old age. All these are clashed. So yoga, the practice of yoga will attenuate, loosen these things that have got their claws into us, not letting us go. The third is it destroys karma. Well, it weakens and destroys karma. Now, what is karma? Well, that's a whole long, you can say, subject, which I won't go now. It's simple, the laws of causation. Whatever I have thought and done and said has an effect on me, and that effect also is on the world. So it has 2 parts. The effect on the world, I call somebody something and that person reacts. That emotion and that thought and the word also will affect me personally. So karma has 2 components, external and internal. It affects the world and it affects you. So this is, and there are in the subconscious mind numberless, millions, billions, trillions, quadrillions, I don't know. They are all teeming inside, waiting like demons to pounce on us. Yoga will attenuate, weaken these bonds of karma. You will know the past, the present, and the future through this knowledge, and things which are yet to come to fruition. Today we talk about post-traumatic stress disorder. Post. Yeah, what do you mean post? Yeah, something you did, something was done to you that has its repercussions and that has its effects even today. Even after 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, you are still suffering from that word or thought or deed done to you or you've done it to. Yoga can weaken this. Then it orients one to the state, the highest state, which is the fifth state, the niruddha. Now, in this, what happens is you are opening yourself up to knowledge. What is the use of practicing yoga? One, just one thing: knowledge. And what knowledge? Super sensuous knowledge. You know the past, present, and future of yourself, of this universe, and you will find reality. Now, that being said, I want to also present to you a few ideas in this series as we go on from the literature of the Ramakrishna Vivekananda. That is, from the Gospel and the Great Master and Holy Mothers and Swami Vivekanandas and the direct disciples. Without yoga, you can never understand these scriptures. Simple, you just read it and it attracts you. But to know the real meaning of these sayings of Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, Swamiji, you've got to be a yogi. As simple as that. Why? Because they spoke these words established in the yoga, in the state of the fifth state, that's the controlled mind, or the fourth state, the one-pointed mind. So these were great yogis and they spoke, and their speech, their teachings is nothing but yoga. So people read this, yeah, but then to dive down deep, that is another one of my reasons for starting the series of classes. That is, you will be able to understand the words of Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, Swamiji, and Vedanta, of course. People have some queer conceptions of Vedanta. You will be able to understand Vedanta in its proper perspective. So as you are progressing on this path, more and more light will shine in. This is the direct, you can say, effect. You will get an insight into you, your thoughts, words, and deeds. And you will automatically put in the corrective measures. This is on the practical level. No longer will you say anything and do anything and speak anything. No. Now there will be a check, a counterbalance. That means your awareness, which was condensed, is now expanding. And this is one of the reasons we need to look at this great science called yoga. I have spoken. So much for the introduction. And this is the first part, and we will keep on going on every Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific time, of course. And I like to lay before you the salient points of this yoga philosophy, as well as its practice, as well as to give you some practical helps or tips to practice at home. You don't make an excuse, I'm too old, I'm too busy, I'm too this. That's an old, you can say, excuse, which does not hold much water nowadays. Okay? But I tell you, it will be a tremendous integrating force in your lives. And that's what we want in a society that's waiting to fragment you at every moment, to exploit you at every moment. you can stand on your own strength through the practice of yoga. Okay. Thank you very much. I will leave some time towards the end for questions. We will take this up. If there's a question, yeah, please raise your hand. And we have a little. We will do it from 7 to 7:45 with a 15-minute QA for us to get to clarify our doubts, and for me also. At times I kind of run sometimes too fast. I need to be kind of restrained and pulled back, and I'll tell you about the nuts and bolts of these things. So we have the first question here. Questioner.
Thank you for taking a practical approach. I appreciate that. And you didn't. When I was studying Hatha Yoga a long time ago, we were told the father of yoga was Patanjali. You didn't mention Patanjali today. I know he came a lot later.
No, I mentioned his work, the Yoga Aphorisms.
All right.
Yeah. Now, Patanjali himself was a great yogi, but what he did was he is considered a great yogi as well as a compiler of the teachings of yoga that was scattered all over India in various sects of yogis. So he compiled them, strung them together in coherent form, and that's what we get is the Yoga Aphorism, Yoga Sutras. So yes, Patanjali is called the father of the modern yoga, but he is not called the father of the meditation that we find in the Upanishads.
No.
Those are, every imagine it takes about 1,000 years for the Vedic religion to transition from that to a structured fire sacrifices, and from there a few thousand years where it can be put into practical use. So there have been teachers, but Patanjali has his work has survived. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Maharaj, I have a question. You said there are 5 types of mind. Me, it seems like the restless mind and diverse mind are very similar.
Restless mind and
Diverse mind,
distracted mind.
distracted mind.
No.
Is that?
No.
Can you explain a little bit more?
The distracted mind is intermittently distracted and goes towards calmness. It's calm and distracted. Like you may be working on something, but you're constantly being distracted and you're bringing your focus back to the work or to study or whatever. But in a restless mind, it's maddening. You can sit, you cannot sleep, you cannot work. It's just kind of, it's called kshipta. Kshipta is that which is thrown out.
I see.
Okay, that, your mind is just thrown about all over the place. So remember, these are the 5 states of qualities of the mind, the very material of the mind. And as we go down, we'll slowly, we'll see the individual components also of this. Okay. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. Thank you.